from CPT. Thanks to Alan and Kirsten for bringing us a few goodies and some stuff that we had shipped to their place. It was so nice having an address to ship all of this stuff to. And they also spoiled Coral with all some nice toys and some nunus, some stuffed animals. Do you want to show your stuffed animal? Tutu! With buffalo love on it! Got all of the components from what I can tell. Got a big old motor. Oh man, it's gonna be so nice. I'm so stoked. We got the control box and all the brackets and belts and everything else that needs to come with it. And then the wheel mount, because this is a wheel-driven autopilot with up to close to 100 pounds of force on the actual wheel. So given we have hydraulic steering and a roughly 30,000 pound boat with everything in it, we are well within the spec of this autopilot to be able to drive our wheel. This wheel autopilot is actually a lot stronger than a lot of the wheel pilots you can get from, say, Ray Marine or anything like that. So I'm really happy with it, and I can't wait to get it installed and test it out. So we need to power our new autopilot. So I think I'm gonna steal the power from our old autopilot pump. So then we can use the same breaker and I don't have to run so many wires. So I'm just gonna make sure we have power here. Flick on the breaker. Autopilot, let's try pump. Let's see if we got power. Not getting anything there. Let's try the autopilot control pump. Would have expected to get something on these. Maybe it's disconnected at the panel. The fun of trying to wire something up using existing setups. Oh, that explains it. Our two breakers down here are not connected to anything, so no wonder we were getting nothing. Maybe it's one of these cut wires. I'll have to do some tracing and figure out what's going on. Why do people do that? Why couldn't you just not use the breaker? Why disconnect it completely? Alright, I think I found the wire. It looks like it was the thicker gray wire cut behind the panel. Gotta love people who cut wires and disconnect it from panels without labeling anything. It would be so handy if it was labeled. But hey, that's what a ohm meter is for. So we just check to make sure there's a connection. It should beep if I have a connection. This wire is connected to behind the panel. And then I just see if, yay, we get a beep. So this gray wire is the same gray wire behind the panel. Perfect.
And we're going to the park, to the playground. Coral's already up and ready. Kai is wants to be ready, wants to come. Kai, on s'en va en aventure. Actually, I think he's gonna fall asleep on the way there.
Of course. So while I'm installing the autopilot, I decided it'd be a good idea to, since I'm already running wires through the pedestal here, down underneath and into the engine compartment, I figured might as well install one of these little 12-volt receptacles, USB charger thingies. And there was already a hole here, so now I'm just reaming it out to make it a little bigger so it fits. And we should have a nice spot to charge our tablets and all our devices for while we're underway in the cockpit, because sometimes you just need a little extra charge and before you enter a harbor or something. And so it's nice to have it right at your fingertips, right at the wheel. And if I try to put it somewhere else, I'm sure Coral is going to get into it and start pulling on wires and stuff. So at least this is kind of out of her reach. So one pro about having a ton of wires that are cut at one end or the other, and you got basically some lazy previous owners who didn't want to pull the wires through, is I have a ton of wire that I can use for other projects. So I realized I don't have any small gauge wire for doing that 12-volt receptacle, so I'm just pulling some of this wire through and I'm going to use it for that. It's going to be perfect. And it was just run into the engine compartment back here. So I'm going to finish pulling that through and I should be able to wire it up just fine. having something like this where the head of the hose clamp, according to the instructions, should be between here, and then they made these little holes so that you can tighten the hose clamp. That's all fine and dandy with a nice flathead, my favorite tool ever. And of course, as the hose clamp gets tight, you're never going to be able to get your flathead in. You're going to have to like fiddle with it to try to actually get your friggin' thing to the last bit of tightness. And all they had to do was drill the hole just a tiny bit bigger on the side to get a nut driver on. Way too long, but oh well, we'll use it anyway. The rubber is supposed to help, I guess, hold it in place. I forgot to put it on, or I thought I could put it on after, but it's way harder, so let's get it on now. I hate flatheads, I hate flatheads. If you're gonna use a hose clamp, use a nut driver. But I can't use a nut driver because the damn hole's too small. Anyway, it's working, but man, it's not easy. Would have been way easier with a nut driver. But hey, we can't all be thinking that far ahead. The rest of the stuff was really well thought out, so I guess I shouldn't complain. And as long as it works, I'll be happy. Just hate dealing with hose clamps with a flathead. That's why I have nut drivers. But it is what it is. Getting tight at least. A few more cranks. The belt is like touching against the wheel, so I need to push the whole thing in more or use a different spacer. Okay.